Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Justin, aka Just Tries, and we're always talking vulnerability, learning, and growth mindset. No sponsors just yet, so go to justkeeplearning.ca for content and more episodes geared toward helping you not just set goals, but achieve them too. We have a goal to help millions of people be lifelong learners and get their own ambitions off the ground, so be sure to hit us up and let us know how we can help. Our guest today stresses that life is simply better when we're working in areas connected to our passion. He destroys the idea that sales or marketing are bad and helps us realize why it's such an important part of seeing our visions to help people. In this episode, we have some great conversation about serving in the military, setting goals, developing habits, and pursuing business that matters to you. After building a career in sales working for someone else, he decided to take the leap of faith and build his own businesses. He's founded, failed, and succeeded in many different ventures, but one thing remains steady: his ability to win or learn. His most recent startup, Talkfluence, was one of the top influencer search platforms, and he is currently CEO at Grow My GMB and Click Connect Media. He's a powerhouse when it comes to strategic planning, leadership, sales, and marketing. Please welcome to episode 9 of the Learned podcast, Daniel Peretz. If you were to be brought into a school, a high school business class, and they were doing like a career day, and you were able to talk to this business class and tell them who you are and what you do, kind of how would you introduce yourself?
So I would say my name is Daniel. I've been involved in a number of businesses, whether it's been real estate investing, software selling, and selling marketing services. My overall goal in life has been to be the best and fun CEO, and for me, I've always wanted to be a business owner. Both my parents are business owners, my grandparents are business owners, so on and so forth, and it just runs through my blood. But what I feel like has helped me persevere and really become a stronger business owner over the last few years has really been consistency. The part that I've done, in terms of having multiple businesses, like I've mentioned, I would say, it's just being in tune with what could I automate, what could I, refine myself in, how could I be more efficient. So I like to always look at myself as, a multiple business owner, because it to me it seems like there's plenty of people who are very successful and have multiple streams of income. So I took that approach in my life, and that's where I'm at.
And I think that multiple streams of income, the concept of passive income, is something that I face all the time when working with youth who want to start a business. They want to be able to go lay on the beach and have their money work for them, kind of thing. I think there's a real possibility to that, but there's a lot of challenge maybe they don't expect. What would you say to someone who that's kind of their goal, to get that passive income?
I would say their goal should be really to first sacrifice a lot in the beginning. It's not something where you just kind of plug and play. There is no system like that. There's plenty of people who say that there is, but really when you look at the top gurus or top performers out there, they had to be consistent in something, at least in the beginning. And, I would say that the best way is to come up with small goals. What small goals could actually generate passive income for you? And all the other stuff that becomes very, distracting, and you're trying to find a unique approach to something that people don't want, it's just going to end up taking more time out of your day and more time out of your life to getting to that passive income. So I would suggest highly, coming up with small goals, sticking to them. And, once you've done those goals consistently, whether it's making $1,000 a week, or even less than that, whatever that goal may be. Once you stuck to that goal consistently, then I would say take it up another notch. But don't assume that this will just be okay. I just do this and then I'll get everything that I want. It does take a little bit of time, and I'd certainly look into something that gives you residual income as opposed to something that is a one-time thing.
Right. I like that idea. I know that the whole goal of this podcast is to not rid the world of them, but when it comes to the snake oil salesman of online courses, a lot of youth or adults alike get into this click funnel of not necessarily bad advice either, but thinking that they can start drop shipping and be millionaires tomorrow, that kind of thing. And you brought up the idea of small goals. Someone who unfortunately passed this year is Kobe Bryant, and he often references the idea of climbing a mountain when it comes to athletic success, fitness or starting a business, but that first step is the most important thing. And I think with the idea of helping people figure out what those first steps can be, that's going to add a lot of value. I'm sure we'll get into lots of things about online business and stuff a little later on. But when it comes to the idea of learning and school for you, what's your experience in that area?
I would say my experience, as far as learning, I went through the traditional system of, getting my bachelor's degree. I ironically got my bachelor's degree in accounting and finance and have used it a little bit. But in terms of my learning experience, I was a little bit different. I bought the courses, even though some people would say, "Oh, it's a little bit fishy" or whatever it is. I bought the courses because if they're selling it and they got me sold and they got other people sold, they must be doing something right. So to me, I do a little bit of research and try to find what is good to learn out there. But really, when I try to find people who I want to learn from, whether it's Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Robbins, I really look at how much of an influence and how much of an impact they've had. So my suggestion for anyone who's trying to learn something new, you could find people that are just haven't necessarily broke out and become famous like Tony Robbins, but they have a sense of influence and they want to make an impact, as opposed to just trying to sell you something that is probably doesn't have any value. That was kind of my upbringing into marketing services, and I started to pick apart a few courses and I started to analyze more about what type of lifestyle I want. And I think that's, to me, that's important when you're learning from someone else. You want to have this similar lifestyle that they have. It doesn't even matter whether it's drop shipping or, at the end of the day, you want their lifestyle. So if I want to live the lifestyle of that, I get passive income, I'm going to learn from someone who is actually doing it.
Right. And I think what's fascinating is it's straight investment stuff. But Warren Buffett always says if your money isn't working for you while you're sleeping, then you're always going to be working for it, kind of thing. It's interesting you bring up Tony Robbins and Robert Kiyosaki, because both of those books have been referenced in episodes on this podcast already, which is neat. Are there any others that come to mind in terms of credible or people, gurus, mentors that you would suggest people look up?
When it comes to books in general, I would say my favorite book, and I'm sure plenty of people say this, is The 4 Hour Work Week. It's more of the concept that makes sense. It's not that he's saying, look, I'm telling you to work 4 hours right now. He's saying that if you could automate your business, and I do this to this day for my businesses, if I could automate my business where I'm literally only working 4 hours, where I can have certain tasks that are being done by other people. And again, if you're starting off, yeah, you may not be able to afford an assistant or other people to help out. But if you could find ways to bootstrap and put things together to where you are outsourcing it or you are delegating those tasks, you're going to get a lot more done. You're going to be more efficient. You could focus on the things that you care about. So I love the 4 Hour Work Week. Something recently that I started, this is on a personal level. I started the 75-day hard challenge by Andy Frisella. So I'm currently on day 4. I almost messed up yesterday. And what I could say about the challenge is it's not a book. I think he's coming out with some book later on. But what I could say about the challenge is about mental toughness. And it's going back to creating small goals. When you have just a simple goal in mind and you just stick to it for 75 days, you're going to kill it in whatever you're trying to do. I highly recommend, whatever age you are, to look into that and try to come up with something that, is relevant to your business.
Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate that. I use the term 200 hours, and that's kind of my version of like, I can help you or I can show you how to accomplish this if you stick with these micro goals within those 200 hours. Very similar. I saw your Frizella post on Facebook. That's cool to see you doing that and modeling lifelong learning. Let's take a step back in terms of elementary, high school, like kind of your upbringing in formal education, I guess, prior to the undergrad. What was your experience when it comes to how you learned or what you liked or maybe didn't like about school?
I was one of those people where I just didn't try at all and I just aced everything. Not trying to say that I'm some kind of genius, but I guess I just picked up information. Maybe I simply just didn't try as hard as I wanted to. And it actually kicked me in the face. So in elementary school, whatever, that was kind of learning about, certain basic topics that you go through. And I felt like I didn't need to try. And then once I reached middle school, I'll never forget in seventh grade, I failed a lot of my classes for the first half of the year. And my mom just looked at me and said, if you think that you don't have to try in life or you don't have to try in school, think again. You're wrong because you're gonna have to be trying every single day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't push myself. And it really, like I said, it really kicked me forward. And once I was in middle school and transitioned to high school, so I had an interesting story. So I went to public high school up until eighth grade. And then I had this huge interest in filmmaking. So I auditioned for performing arts high school. And out of, whatever, few hundred people, and a few others, I got in for ninth grade. And I was really fortunate to be part of that school. It's in Philadelphia. I learned a lot about just overall like how to I learned a lot about like equality. Like we all have different aspirations, we all have different talents, and I just learned how to treat everyone like they're a human being. You know what I mean? When you're in that type of environment where you have kids that are learning dance, kids that are learning art, and we're learning filmmaking, you kind of you start to see different personalities. I think one thing that I learned throughout that whole 4 years in high school, I had a teacher who was my English teacher in ninth grade, and I'll never forget her. She was so hard on us the entire year. And I remember hearing conversations she was having with people that already finished her class, 10th, 11th graders, etc. And she was so nice to them, very nice to them, very friendly. But to us, she would, give us crazy homework assignments. She would make it very difficult for us. And I remember asking her, like, after the year ended, I was like, why did you do that? Like, what was the point of that? And I'll never forget this. She said to me, if I didn't care about you, I wouldn't push you. And I get the chills, like just saying this, but like, I feel like sometimes we have people that surround us, whether it's teachers or whoever, and we think, why are they pushing me? Why are they pushing me? Because they care about it. And to me, that propelled me, caring about other people. I want to push them to the point that they become a better person and a better human, to society.
As an athlete, as a coach, and as a teacher, I can certainly relate with that idea of pushing people. One of the resources that I like to plug off, and if people don't know it, is Randy Pausch's Last Lecture, which is a book, but the YouTube video is what was subsequently turned into a book. He says exactly that he had a football coach tell him one day, and that it still gives him chills to that day, that listen, as soon as I stop bugging you, that's when you know you've got a problem, because that's when I don't care anymore. He said that stuck with him forever in terms of his mentoring others, etc. For those who don't know Randy Pausch's Last Lecture, I suggest looking it up. The short story is that he was a mentor and a prof to a lot of people. And he found out he had cancer, terminally ill, a few young children at the time. And he said, you know what, I'm going to make the most of it. And he went and he spits for an hour and a half, does his last lecture to the world. And there's tons of value in that. It's something that keeps me going when I'm kind of thinking about my own struggles, if you will. Thinking of that idea of struggles, I know you obviously, and I was much the same, you were able to figure out the system, navigate school, and make it work for you because you could find out what they want. Were there times that you did find difficult where you needed to kind of lean on resilience, or suggestions that you would give other people who maybe don't find the system that easy?
Yeah, I would say, if someone doesn't find the system that easy or they're struggling, I would highly suggest that they take a good look at themselves and reflect and understand where are they struggling in. Is it merely the fact that they're not doing their homework, or they're not able to pay attention, and just write that down and say, and just be honest with yourself, like, why am I struggling with this? I write down my struggles all the time. I write down what do I need to work on, what can I improve on, which is why I'm taking on this 75 day hard challenge. And I think once you write it down and you say, like, okay, let me just tackle this one thing, because we can't improve ourselves dramatically overnight. And that's the idea. I heard this from, and I'm going to quote him. His name is Doug Wood. He's very huge on health and mental health, and he talks about how when you try to do a 10% change, you're going to end up doing 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. What you need to first focus on is that 1% change. So if you feel like you can't focus in class, how could you better do that? And I'm sure there's plenty of resources in the schooling, whatever it may be, to figure out how could I just be better in that one area. Don't try to take on too much at once. And then once you incrementally grow that 1% to where it becomes 10%, then you're comfortable at where you're at, and then you can make yourself uncomfortable, improve even further. But that's just my suggestion. I mean, I feel like, even though I figured out the system with schooling, I still had struggles. And, when I went into college, I had to try. So that's, you gotta put down what you feel like you need to improve on, and just keep an eye on it on a daily basis.
I like the idea of writing things down. I think when we get in such a digital world, that quickly gets lost for a lot of people. I actually went back to a traditional notebook because it was a thought guru that I heard talking about this idea of like to-do lists. And I used to use notes, and I would use different tech related products to try and keep track. But I realized that's not 100% of the time thing. And writing things down can at least put it on paper and allow me to focus on whatever 1% I'm working on. I think that's great. One thing I wanted to ask about, and I realize it can be a sensitive topic sometimes, but you post a lot of your military experience. I think that's something that you set a great example of all the things that helped form you into the person you are today, whether it's learning or business or life. What are some things that you think that helped you with?
So I don't hide from it. I served in the Israeli Defense Forces. I volunteered as American. My family is from there, and to me, why I wanted to serve was because I wanted to serve either in the U.S. and Israel, and Israel to me was just the better timing. And then at the time, I really wanted to just focus on how can I better service my people and not have to service myself first. I was a little bit different than a normal 18, 19-year-old when it comes to, discipline and things like that. But I certainly wanted to figure out a way, how could I voluntarily help out and, not have to go straight into college. So I think that people that are looking into this, where they say, I want to go into the military, right out of high school or somewhere in between. I think that you don't have to have, maybe like I had maybe a little bit of a more discipline, whatever it is. You could just do it because you think that it's the right thing to do. So some of the things that I've learned throughout the Army experience, and what I try to share with people is, one, I had a recent post. I was talking about equality. When you go into the Army, you put on a uniform, you shave your head. Doesn't matter who you are. I don't care if you're rich, poor, black or white, whatever it is. The important thing is that you are one unit. And I think it made me realize that we're all human beings. We're all one unit. This is all our world that we're living in. And so that was an important lesson. Kind of going back to your question, I think like it's made me realize, like, when I'm learning or absorbing things, I have to think very quickly. What's the next step I have to do? And it's the military kind of programmed me to think that way. And I still, to this day, I still get distracted. I'm like everyone else when it comes to that. But I certainly have learned to become more programmed to just make a decision and then move forward and just take action on it. It was definitely an amazing experience for me. It certainly was a challenging and sacrificing time for my family, but I had a very interesting time.
I think the most important thing when it comes to questions like that is just realizing that so many of our experiences form us. And it's just neat hearing what people's versions of it are, because obviously there's famous military people, David Goggins and Jocko Willink, with that experience. And then they use that as their platform to do their TED Talk or to create their podcast or what have you, whatever it is, whether it's military, playing football, or, as you mentioned, filmmaking. I think there's little pieces that build us into who we are. And it's just neat to ask about them. And so going back to that idea of filmmaking, you're not a filmmaker now per se, right? Or maybe you are. What was kind of that transition from the topic that you did throughout that focus program to where you are now?
I went into Kappa Korean Performing Arts High School as a filmmaking and theater major. Long story short, basically what happened was I wanted to go into filmmaking in LA. Once I graduated high school, I went to LA, and that's where I was introduced to the idea of potentially, going to Israel, and that's where the Israeli Defense Forces kind of came in, and basically, while I was there, I just realized that filmmaking was a mechanism for me to express myself, express my ideas. But I didn't think it necessarily was the right career path for me. And I think could be a right career path for anyone who's interested. It just wasn't for me. And I think what I had to realize was you could have passions for things. I could have passion for filmmaking. I could have passion for movies in general. But it doesn't necessarily mean that specifically the passion is the career path I have to head into. So I had to compartmentalize that. And then once I was done the army, I came back to the US and I just started finding my place. And I ran into Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, started getting into digital marketing and understanding about it more. And that's where, I eventually started Click Connect Media. And now I have a software company, Talkfluence. I've done a lot of projects, but really and again, going back to like the filmmaking and connecting that to where I'm at now, it's really giving me a perspective about what do people want to see? You know what I mean? When I'm presenting to people about Click Connect, I almost look at it as like a movie. You know what I mean? Like, here I am telling you my story. How do you feel about it? Are you excited? Are you not excited? How many Rotten Tomatoes do I get? You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I viewed, sales, marketing, all of that. And I'm hoping, hopefully that I can certainly build off my platform over time. And maybe filmmaking can come in. Maybe, I'm doing videos anyway. So it's kind of, it's compartmentalizing what you're passionate about and how could you make it a reality. But you don't have to do something just because, like, oh, I'm passionate about basketball, I have to be, an NBA star. Maybe you just use basketball as a tool to learn how to be more disciplined, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think we could go hours or days on this one topic.
Yeah.
And I do want to stick there for a little second because we'll get to your business projects. I'm sure people are excited to hear about that. But before we lose track of something you just said, I heard a really good way of explaining it recently. And it was that whatever your passion is could be a hobby, could be a job, it could be a career, it could be a vocation, or it could be a combination of all four. And that was the first time that I'd ever heard it put that way. And I think she went on to say that it can also be a continuum that changes, right? How much of your passion in filmmaking or basketball or fitness is your job, your hobby, your career, and your vocation. And in this woman's case, she was a writer. She said those things have always been evolving in those four areas for her. And I just loved the way that she put it. For me, one thing I do is I coach youth one-on-one to figure out what that passion is in the first place.
Right.
And I think that's really important. But then once you do, a lot of them want to turn it into their job, or maybe they just want to keep doing it. And I think that's just an important part to kind of reiterate. I know that's exactly what you already just said. But if somebody was struggling to figure out what they did want to do, back to that passion piece, what are some ways that people, in your opinion, could kind of figure out what the heck they want to do if they have 1,000 ideas?
I would say this is not my idea because it's clearly Matthew McConaughey's idea. But he says, vision yourself 10 years from now and constantly work to that vision, every single day. So if I vision myself 10 years from now being the freaking president of the United States, like whatever that goal is, then I should work towards that goal and don't hold yourself back. And again, every career path is different. I'm just saying, don't hold yourself back and say, 10 years from now, I'm only going to improve on myself like one iota. It's like, no, I want you to really feel like there's something that you are going to really propel yourself in 10 years from now. What does that look like for you? And live that every single day. So I think that if someone's struggling to figure out, okay, but I don't really know what that 10 years from now is, I would say really write down everything that you enjoy doing. Is it writing? Is it, designing? Is it, volunteering? What exactly do you enjoy? And again, going back to like compartmentalizing and saying, okay, I enjoy writing. What could I use my writing skills for? Could I be, by the way, you could be a lawyer, and you could write. You could be a writer. You could do a lot of things with writing. I'm running out of ideas, and again, thank God for Google. You could start to research and see, okay, how could I use that skill and really service for people? If you're just doing it just to make money, I'm going to tell you this right now, you're going to struggle. Don't do something because you're just there to make money. Do it because you actually care about it and you actually see people want the idea. And I think that once you've narrowed that list down, write out what does that lifestyle look like. If I'm a writer and I'm writing books, like what does that lifestyle look like? Do I love sitting down in front of the computer? Look, I majored accounting and finance in college. I enjoyed the entire time working on my Click Connect business and other businesses with marketing. I didn't care about accounting, but whatever the time at that time, I was already in the midst of the degree, whatever it is. The point I'm trying to make is I realized that I didn't want the accounting lifestyle. It could be good for someone else, but it's not good for me. So figure out what lifestyle you want, match that with those lists that you made. And, look, anyone can reach out to me. I'm sure reaching out to you. If you need help, I'm here to help. I mean, that's kind of, that's where I want to help people out in marketing campaigns, etc. So you have to figure out, where do you want to help people in?
Couldn't put it better myself. One thing I think that's interesting that comes up is the idea of having a niche versus going broad with your content. And we already referenced Tony Robbins earlier in our conversation. On his website, I'm pretty sure it says, I help people improve their lives. I mean, how can you get it? Like, it's in one way, this is a fascinating paradox to me because it's extremely niche. If you get it to the one person, what do they find joy out of, and how do we help them do more of it? Yet it's extremely broad because it's, how do I help people follow their big dreams and goals? And yet he's obviously made a very successful career out of it.
Slightly successful, I don't know.
Yeah, understatement. But to the people that want to help in that sort of like very broad way versus being able to niche down, what would your suggestions be in that hot debate these days?
It's a great question. Again, I think it goes back to, if you have people that are in your network that are dentists. If you're in high school and let's say you have people in your network who are in the auto dealership, whatever, maybe start with that niche because at least they're within your network, and then you could start to broaden your horizon a little bit. If you have that niche available, then I would start with that niche right away because it's already in your network. You could already test it out with some people. And then if the platform or the service or whatever business you're providing is working well for them, and then just check out, can I tweak this? I know it worked for an auto dealership. Can I tweak this and offer this to a dentist? Can I tweak this and offer this to any, business out there? Or a consumer. I think that if you're offering, a product, I would say it's probably in my opinion, it's probably best to focus on a single product that you feel ecstatic about, and how could that single product be reached to the right consumer that actually cares about it. So I wouldn't say focus on a niche all the time, but I do think that if you are comfortable with adding in a few niches here and there, then just do it. Don't worry about, is this not niche focused, will I lose track of things? If you can handle the growth of your company, then just go for it. Initially, I worked a lot in the real estate industry, and that just felt comfortable for me because I know people in real estate, et cetera. I think it's on a case by case basis. I don't think there's like a perfect solution to say do this and just stick with it. Certainly, I don't disregard at all having a broad approach. I mean, like you said with Tony Robbins, he's just that's how he's growing his business.
I help people.
Yeah, I mean that's how he's growing his business. So.
Well, it's fascinating. And when I ask that question, it's always slightly selfish because I love helping people. And when I think of not helping the 55-year-old man who contacted me on LinkedIn asking for help because I focus on youth, it throws me for a bit of loop. And people say, well, that's just ego. And I'm like, no, I'm Ryan Holiday. Ego is the enemy through and through. It's not about that for me. It's more about, I don't know even what people need, right? So there, people will give you advice like, well, you need to help people who are female stay-at-home moms who want to start a sewing business, and they just really want that really fine funnel. And I think what I've heard Gary Vee talk about the benefit of marketing to the world, and I think what's neat about that is that you can segment when it comes to your messaging or your filmmaking based on the copy and the ads.
Right.
Your product or service could help lots of people that you don't even know. I just think it's an interesting debate. I do want to get into more technical and specifics. I know there's tons, but if you went through, what are the businesses and experiences you've had?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go through more recently. As far as Click Connect Media goes, we're a full service marketing agency, services like SEO, paid ads management, and web design. Basically, we help businesses on campaigns or launching their business, and we're really their marketing partner, outstretched CMO for 3 to 12 months. And then when it comes to Talkfluence is an influencer search and audience analytics tool. We have over 6.5 million TikTok accounts, which is crazy. We have 20 search criteria, emails, phone numbers. The only thing we don't have is their address. I'm just kidding. We won't be getting that. But we have this data, and really what we're trying to do is help brands and agencies. Like, we recently brought on Shine. We have, there's plenty of brands out there that are utilizing TikTok, and we just want to make it easier for them to find an influencer. So when you talk about niche focus, myself, Jean-Yves, and Fabian, who are my two co-founders, we love TikTok. And I think as far as being niche focused, I mean, they're kind of becoming like a broader niche, but to us, we're passionate about it. So we felt like this niche, in terms of providing influencer search tool, will be helpful to people, and so far it has. So that's kind of like the ins and outs of what I've been doing recently, and yeah.
So let's go maybe with Click Connect first. So is it very small businesses that are able to connect with you? Is it like the full range? Can one person who's starting a business access your services, or does it tend to be more corporation based?
So it's full range. I mean, we've worked with a number of businesses that are, one employee to a lot, a lot more employees. To us, it's more about the marketing team. Some businesses have a very small marketing team that's 10 people, yet their entire landscape is, 150, right? So it's about collaborating with that team. And if the team is a non-existent, they don't have a CMO or someone to help them, then that's something we can come in and help them with. I had a call with someone who just had an app idea, and he just wanted to know a little bit more about how to go about developing it and getting it out there. And so it really just depends. But I think for us, it's about how could we take their campaign or take their company and bring it to another level.
Yeah, that's great. Now you mentioned 3 to 12 months. Are those different options, or is it that they work with you about the first year kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, usually their campaign, it's lasting about 3 months. These bigger companies, and especially companies we've worked with, it's like they have a campaign and they got to get it moving. And things change a lot. For smaller businesses who are working with us consistently, it's really just about having a platform and a model that we can evaluate and constantly readjust. So when we're managing their ads or we're managing their SEO, we can start to see, okay, how can we adjust this accordingly based off of what we're seeing in results? Or is this converting well? We talked about small businesses. E-commerce businesses are a great example. If you start to evaluate and see, okay, I'm not converting so well in my Facebook ads, how can we readjust that? So, for the 3 to 12 months, it's kind of like, how can we really expand and grow from there?
Right. So that's the campaign. With Talkfluence, you had some co-founders. Click Connect, were you on your own for that, or did you start that with other people too?
That's just me.
Okay, that's neat. I know a question that people love to know the answer to is what pushed you over the edge to starting a business versus, going looking for a job?
I was a little bit at I want to say I had to be a little bit responsible. I got married young. I have two kids. So I had, a business, and I also had a job, and I was, working the business out. And this was like years ago, especially when I still was building this business up. I felt like the one thing that I was struggling at was just clocking in and clocking out. I felt like I wanted to do a lot more, whether it's getting them sales. Like, so when I was at Temple University, I did an internship with an accountant. He was an older man, and it was like he was doing the sales, and I was doing his work. Like I had to help him out with tax returns and all those details. And look, that's why I was hired. But I was like, dude, like teach me the sales stuff. Like I don't want to do that. And then that's when I realized, like, that moment there, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to work for myself. I need to build something for myself and my family to where I could support them, help them out. So I didn't want to do all that, paperwork and whatever. That to me just bothered me. So when I realized that sales was really important to me, that's when I was like, okay, let me get into that. And that I don't know. That's what really pushed me.
In terms of people being hesitant, so often when you ask them, the one thing they know for sure is that they don't want to have a boss. There's like this huge collection of people, but they're just so scared they don't know how to start. But before we talk about that, maybe let's go back to Talkfluence. Just touch on how you went from I already have a business that's functioning and operating. I'm going to go start another one. How did that happen?
I've always, I've had e-commerce stores. I've done a lot of things. I help people in other areas, but I've always felt like I said before, I wanted to have multiple streams of income. So I was fortunate enough to meet Johnny and Fabian, which is again a long story about that. But they developed Talkfluence, and at the time it was just starting off. We were giving ideas, and how we can improve the model. And I think really when I saw the product and I saw how much potential this could have, and also my passion for TikTok, I felt like I can't say no to this. I have to do this. I have to get involved. And I think for people that are looking for another opportunity in addition to what they're doing, I think you have to first evaluate, are you able to really juggle that? Or are you just going to again distract yourself and have you off the wrong path of success? And if you can make it available and it could build again passive income for you, why not? Go look into it, try it out. There's nothing wrong with trying something for 3 months. And look, obviously, I don't want to if someone's making a huge financial stake or whatever it is, which comes into that. But if you're gonna just give your time and try something to see if it'll work, go for it. I again, it goes back to like just make that quick decision and go ahead and do it. And I think I was after having conversations with Johnny and Fabian and figuring out a game plan. It just felt right. I can't explain it. I think it's sometimes like you just get that gut feeling that this feels right or it doesn't, and everyone has a different approach of what their gut is saying.
That would be one amazing thing. If we could bottle the ability for people to use their gut feeling and sell that, that'd be the world's biggest e-commerce store, I'm sure, because it's so important. And I love something you touched on the idea of trying. I use the handle just tries, and I've been using that for a while now because that's what I try and make my content when I'm modeling is just showing people like, look, I can try and become a singer for the sake of, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it and that's okay. I think unlocking that for people would be huge, which definitely brings us to the idea of kind of lack of confidence or worrying about what the sort of haters think because you're so heavy in the social media space and you have seen people go through probably ups and downs. What are some suggestions you would give to people that are worried about that and that's holding them from starting?
I would say this. I would say if look at yourself and ask yourself who out there is probably like me. There is a Justin out there like you who's going through the same struggles. There's a Daniel out there who's going through the same struggles that I am or needs to hear something and just share it. I mean, who cares? Like, like if you share it and it doesn't get, the algorithm doesn't work. You don't get all the likes. I mean, I share posts and like maybe I'll get 10 likes. Okay. I don't care about the likes. I care that if I'm if I'm sharing my message and one person gets so impacted that it changed their life, I mean, like I, I'll tell you. So I'm an Orthodox Jew. I believe in God, and sorry if that offends anyone, but that's who I am. And I firmly believe that in my life, if I could impact one person, I've lived a good life. And that to me, like, and not to get too deep on the social media stuff, but if you're promoting stuff, if you're just giving out your message, just do it. Just because you never know who's going to see it, and it's going to make an impact on their day. And just think about it, like, when you see a message, when you see a post, it may have an impact on you. So why not offer the same favor to help people out?
Yeah, that's true. And I think overthinking comes into play. But what's so cool is you just brought up the idea of helping one person. Previously, we talked about fixing your 1%. The title of this episode might have a one in it, I'm thinking, because it just seems like that theme. Like, oh, you mentioned small goals too. It's that idea of taking it piece by piece, right? Just to wrap up the idea of Talkfluence, who would use Talkfluence as a service?
Great question. So really any B2C, really, even B2B brands that want to expand their audience network, also agencies that are working with these brands to help them in their influencer campaigns. So a lot of people look at influencer marketing, they think, oh, it's just this influencer. She's probably just dancing around and doing nothing. That's not how it works. How it works is you're building your audience network to the point that you could get that influencer to promote your product, whether you're selling hairspray. It doesn't matter what you're selling to them, but it allows them to promote your product in an organic fashion by creating content that will ultimately lead this user, their audience, to your website or to your social media profile or platform. The goal that we find with brands is that to educate them, ones that are involved in influencer marketing, this is like a no-brainer. People that don't understand influencer marketing, like I said, there's a lot more to the content creation, and also it is more cost effective, in my opinion. I know this because I see this a lot with paid ads, etc., than running paid ads in most cases. We talked about like people like Gary Vee. Gary Vee is promoting himself, and yes, it may not necessarily lead to business for him, but what it's doing is it's actually building the ripple effect of people that know about his product, about him personally. And I think that when you're doing that through an influencer, again, if they're having a slight impact from their audience, that ripple effect can continue, and you could start to utilize things like hashtag challenges, etc., and the influencer could work with you on that. So really any B2C, direct to consumer, business consumer products work well. E-commerce stores, fashion, esports, gaming, you name it, would be a good fit.
And so let's say it was an e-commerce store, you had a new line of tie-dye hoodies or something you were selling, and you wanted to access your help for it. Is the process, I guess, just walk me through the short version of the process.
So let's just say you're trying to sell this tie-dye shirt. How do I utilize an influencer? So a couple ways is to either offer the product to them for free to where they would promote the product. I would suggest, depending on your budget, I would look at nano or micro influencers, anywhere between 5,000 to about 100,000 followers. Because in my opinion, first of all, it's cost effective. And second of all, if you find the right one who has the right audience, which Talkfluence we offer, audience reports, etc., then you're focused like on the niche aspect of, okay, I'm selling this tie-dye shirt. I want to make sure that everyone in their audience, first of all, is in the US. This shirt is for men, whatever those details are. And then you could talk to the influencer. You could say, I'm selling this shirt. What do you think? Do you think your audience will love it? I would then check out their content, see if they actually do promote products. If they're promoting a product every single second, probably avoid them. But if they're doing it in an organic basis, and you see that they have a good engagement rate, then again, it's kind of like just go for it. See what type of interaction you get and reaction you get from their audience, and then evaluate further influencers along the way. And you could either offer an affiliate commission or something, as a one-time payment.
And so do you guys act as the middleman for that in terms of being a conduit, or do you just collect the database to give them the stats to use?
So with Talkfluence specifically, we allow them to search for these influencers. If they do need help with that, campaign wise, they could certainly reach out. But as far as the platform is concerned, it makes it very easy for them to just email them, DM them, message them directly.
That's great. It's really neat. What's fascinating is it's really just the beginning of all of this. And I think our world moves so fast in today's day and age that people think, maybe it's already saturated or those kinds of things. In terms of being an influencer, let's say, the way I like to wrap these episodes is by kind of throwing a scenario at you in your topic area that's actually true. So I work with youth in jails, and there's a 19-year-old male that I've worked with. His goal was to become a rapper, right? When I think of that and I see a lot of the advice that people like Gary Vee put out about TikTok and those sorts of things, the whole idea of influencer goes into that too, right? So if his goal was to, let's say, grow on TikTok, and I did look at your database, so his goal is to get into the top 100 of your database or whatever, what do you think the approach that a kid just getting into that should take?
That's a great question. I would say the approach is, again, figure out who you want your audience to be. People like Addison Ray, et cetera. They kind of they put out great content, but they pretty much hit the lottery when it comes to this algorithm, and I commend her for that. But I think that when it comes to people that are starting off and figure out their TikTok content, figure out who your audience is first, because you don't want to be like me, who just puts out videos. And I put out videos, just to be fun about it and just to inspire. But I would say if you're a rapper, make sure it's like you're sticking to who is your audience, who will actually listen to your music, and don't deviate. If my goal is to inspire people, just inspire. Don't focus on the other stuff like, oh, how should it look, or this angle and that angle. If it's going to inspire someone, then they're going to listen in. I would say also, if you're utilizing Talkfluence, you could also check out hashtags to see what other rappers and their hashtags that they're using, or maybe even check out the mentions, if they're mentioning other people. And if you're growing your TikTok account, you really any account, you have got to be consistent. I mean, posting every day. I know for some people it's like, wow, it seems like a lot of work, but if you want to see your content grow, that's exactly what you have to do. Comes some technical stuff. I would say don't ever delete your content on TikTok, even if you think like, oh, only 200 people saw it. Don't delete it. You never know what becomes famous. I have a waffle video that got 300,000 views. Just don't ask. Like, but that's that you want to be consistent. You want to make sure that the content is real and authentic. And then if you have an idea as far as like, how could I make it interesting or funny, do it subtly. Don't sporadically, go from one place to the other, but do that subtly so that people respect your content, if that makes sense.
TikTok is definitely a good platform that's kind of sort of here to stay. Obviously, you can't predict the future, but I have heard people already saying, well, it's already saturated, like that kind of thing. What would you say to people who worry about getting into it?
You're not going to start this, 3-4 months from now and start putting up 100 videos in one day. You might as well start it now. Give yourself a platform, and look. At the end of the day, if you use your TikTok platform to promote your Instagram, great. Why not? Or promote your YouTube. That's fine. But that's just another avenue for someone in that audience within TikTok to get to your channel. I am very confident it is here to stay. They're moving in a more appropriate professional approach, where I think maybe other platforms out there struggled with that. There's a lot of opportunity on TikTok. It's just a matter of if you're going to be consistent and you're going to take it seriously. I think you'll see a lot of success. But if you're just going to do one video and hope that it's going to be TikTok famous, it's going to be very hard.
Right. And I think another debate is this idea that you're trying to grow a following. Maybe some people just because they just enjoy creating, and that's probably best. But if somebody's setting out to start a business, where do you lie on the argument of monetization versus free content and what the strategy should be?
I think it really depends on the business. If you're if you're selling a product, like a sneaker or whatever it is, then I would say, yeah, it's probably going to be hard to offer free content, but you still can. There's still ways to go about it. Whether it's joining, your newsletter or joining your YouTube channel where you talk about, how sneakers are evolving in the past 3 months, whatever it may be. I know nothing about sneakers, so I probably should have chose a different topic. But but when you try to take down the whole free content or monetizing situation, I think you have to analyze first who's your audience. Depending on your audience, depending on their demographics, I would say evaluate that and see can the free content be valuable to them, or is it just look? Let's just discuss how ways that I could add value in your life, and yeah, that becomes a monetization level.
Yeah, I think that's great. Knowing your audience is a great spot to kind of wrap up. I do ask a few themed questions as just a way to tie the episodes together. So they're very quick. But before I do, did you have anything that maybe we left out that comes to mind when it comes to learning, education, or starting online business?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot on my mind as far as what we discussed, but I would say in regards to, online education or education in general, like I said, I think, try to find people that you want to live their lifestyle and not just like they have a Ferrari. I mean, like they are, if you're a family man or if you're, family woman or whatever it is, and you want to incorporate, having a successful business but being a family person, find a person who is also like that. I'll tell you things that I messed up in. It was I got involved, like I said, in these courses. I paid a lot of money for it. And then it's like I realized when I'm hearing this person talk, I'm like, I don't want to be like this person. Like I don't relate to this person. Even though the topic is very educational, I just don't connect with that. So that's probably the one thing I would say. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't want to jump back there too much and keep you on too much longer, but you just made me think of one thing because I can definitely empathize. And I know a lot of my students, even though they're very young, they already have kids too. What would be one of those tips or something you would say to people trying to juggle life and business? And that's one of the things that they're saying is holding them back.
So here's the thing, and I had a conversation with my wife earlier about this. There's no juggling. You think that you're juggling. You think that like I could be on my phone and try to whatever do my business and then watch my kid at the same time. There is no juggling. You have to come. You have to compartmentalize. One, for your sanity, and two, it's important that you give attention to your kids. Just like if I said to someone, you know, would it be important to you to be give attention to your business? You would say, hell yeah, of course it's important to me. Well, the same thing goes for your kids. Same thing goes for your family. Give attention to them and put it in your calendar. I put it in my calendar every day. 5 to 7 p.m. No one interrupts me, and I'm focused on my family. That's something you have to figure out yourself. When you have that time available. Not saying it has to be 2 hours or 1 hour, but just decide. Say this time I'm focused on things that are more important in life. I'm telling you, it's way more important in life than your business. And don't try to juggle things because you will fail at one or the other while you're juggling it. And look, if it's half an hour, great. Just make it a very efficient half an hour with your family.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so a few questions that I ask everybody. The first one, they're a little more rapid fire, is if you left advice for the next generation, since you have kids, it's an easy thing to probably have top of mind. What would you say?
Don't be too hard on yourself. There's that old saying, keeping up with the Joneses. And they used to say that because Jones, the family Jones, was next door. Now we live in a society where we have TikTok, we got Facebook, everyone's a Jones. Now we're keeping up with the Kardashians, right? We're keeping up with everyone. I know that there's plenty of people out there that we would love to emulate, we would love to live their lives, but you have your life. Forget them. Your life is more important. And I think like for the younger generations, you have so many ways to interact with people and see their lives, and you think you're seeing their lives, but all you're seeing is a very, 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 very short clip of their life. And I'm telling you that there's so many other things that they don't show out there in social media or whatever. Don't beat yourself up. Don't look at other people and compare yourself. Everyone has struggles, and just look at yourself first before you start, looking at other people.
I love that. That would be great for all of our kids for sure. One thing that you're currently learning right now.
There's a book that we're learning. It's called Habits of Health. And I'm learning more about how to just mentally, compartmentalize, or really just, be disciplined and have the willpower. I highly recommend, if you want to talk to my wife, who's a health coach, but we read this book, and we've read this book multiple times. And I feel like it's just something I have to keep on learning. There's certain aspects that I missed out on that, could just have a nice nuance to my life. Like, if you're eating, sit down and eat. Don't stand up. If you're struggling with X, give a funeral to it. Like, basically say I'm done with it if you're always struggling with it. So that's one thing I'm learning. I mean, there's plenty of other books. We were talking about productivity. I highly recommend. There's a book by David Allen, which I'm losing the name of, Getting Things Done, which is a great book. So I'm kind of relearning that and some of his system.
Learning lots. This I frame in a way that if you were to ask me a question that you think might be a good piece of content for me to answer for my audience, just a question that you would ask me.
I would say content that I would love to see is, how can teens handle the pressure that is faced in social media, showing my glamorous life or whatever it is. I think that it would be an interesting topic, as you being a high school teacher and seeing that interaction and how they're interacting with those tools. How could they handle the pressure, stress, and having to feel likable, especially in this day and age?
Yeah, I'll answer it long form. And I know we want to get you going. I will just say quickly that I love how you already kind of hit it on it. And it's the idea of not comparing yourself, which is crazy because it extends to adults too. But I'll build that out. I'll do it as an actual 60-second Instagram video and share it with you. But the last question is where and why people would want to find you online.
On LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, I'm Daniel Peretz, or The Real Daniel Peretz. Feel free to message me. If you ever need me, or you want to message me, need some help, need some guidance with your business, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. And yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for your time. You're a kind, generous person with a wealth of knowledge in business. So I appreciate you coming on to share it with everyone.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for your time.
Such a great episode. I hope these are really helping you or someone you know. It's hard to get all of these incredible stories out to the world, so please do pass it along. Thank you to our guest, Daniel. He's a great leader and mentor for anyone thinking of starting a business or getting into sales and marketing. It's our goal to have this in every school in the world, so please do subscribe, leave reviews, but most importantly, pass it on to someone who you think could benefit from the show. Until the next episode of the Learn Podcast, all the best, and remember, just keep learning.